Welcome to Switched On Thinking, a podcast that explores the real-world networking challenges faced by businesses of today and the future. Twice a month, we deliver insightful and informative analysis of the key role that networking technology plays in driving business success and ensuring business continuity. Switched On Thinking is brought to you by NETGEAR, delivering innovative networking solutions you can count on, so you can spend more time on what matters most, growing your business. Now, here's your host, acclaimed author and tech columnist, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Switched On Thinking podcast, where I'm going to be discussing how NETGEAR and its partners are solving the real-world networking challenges of today, and indeed the future. And in the coming weeks, you can expect to hear all of the latest innovations in business network technology. And working from home is no longer just isolated to the lucky few. And after months of working from home at scale, many are no longer location dependent. And that has dramatically changed our expectations, as we now expect to be able to work from any device and indeed anywhere. But when we are working from home, what does that mean for the home office? And in a home full of smart devices and streaming services, how can you ensure your video conferencing meetings have enough bandwidth? And what will that home office of the future look like? These are just a few of the topics that I want to explore today with Douglas Cheung from NETGEAR. And it does seem that we're all surrounded by buzzwords such as the new normal and working from home, but I want to try and dig a little bit deeper on that subject and help everybody listening understand what the home office of the future looks like. But enough from me. Let's get Doug onto the podcast now. Welcome to the Switched On Thinking podcast, Doug. Can you tell the listeners a little more about your role at NETGEAR and the kind of problems that you're aiming to solve with technology?
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you, Neil. My name is Doug Cheung. I'm a product line manager at NETGEAR. I'm responsible for the NETGEAR business wireless products and storage products at NETGEAR. And what are the challenges that we face and what the problems that we try to solve? Literally, I mean, we're a networking company. So the primary objective that we have on a daily basis is to connect people more efficiently at a higher quality and make people happier. I mean, literally, you should see the face of people when they struggle with Wi-Fi.
And it feels like companies of all sizes, from micro businesses to big corporations, are all attempting to understand what the future of work will look like at the moment. And most importantly, the home office of the future and what that's going to look like. So I've got to ask, how do you see the home office of the future and how does it differ from what we have now, Doug?
So I'm a little bit biased, to say the least, because I work in the technology field. I really think that technology is transformative. And new technologies transform methods of production and organization of labor resources. And we have seen it in the past couple of years, right? We are witnessing yet another transformation. Do we still have to work from 9 to 5? Do we have to have all employees come to the same location Monday to Friday? Do we have to hire only people within 1 hour commute to the office? I think these are questions that businesses, big and small, are actively working on. The health crisis of 2020 only heightens that reimagining and, may I say, the reorganizing. So work from home is going to be here to stay. It's only a matter of how we make it work for both the employer and the employee.
And whether you have a home office or a hotel with guest and staff Wi-Fi, there does seem to be this constant battle for bandwidth at the moment. So I'm curious, Doug, what is the best way of overcoming challenges like this?
Yep, you're absolutely right. In the past, 20 years, maybe even 30 years, internet speed has gone multifold, right? Every couple of years, from dial-up modem to now, fiber to the home, and very soon we're going to have 5G. But still, because of the amount of data, and when I say data, it includes verbal and visual communication that is multiplying even faster than the internet speed that affords us. So what that means, what you said was exactly right. There's always that competition for bandwidth going to the internet, right? Going to the internet. That is the bottleneck. So there are many, many ways to mitigate that. I would not call it completely resolved, right? The complete resolution of that is, limitless internet bandwidth, which is impossible. So given a limited resource, how do we mitigate? How do we allocate that resource among different use of the internet in the home? That's the challenge. That's a challenge. There are many ways to solve that, by, for example, prioritizing applications. So, for example, if I'm only downloading a movie versus someone who is playing a computer game online, who should have a higher priority? If I have someone who is engaging in a overseas, like what we're doing exactly right now between, one place in the United Kingdom and one place in America, having a video conference call, which one should have a priority in terms of getting the bandwidth as well as latency, right? These two concepts are related, but not the same. So handling different applications, giving it a slight different priority is one way to resolve and mitigate the limitation of internet bandwidth. And there are many others too, right? The type of device. If I have a refrigerator that is connected to the internet, would it enjoy the same throughput priority as my computer or as my TV? Those are easy questions to answer. But these are some of the fundamental concepts in mitigating internet speed limitation.
And one of the phrases that I've heard you use quite a lot in the past is work bandwidth, life boundary. So can I ask that you explain that phrase and maybe bring it to life with a bit of a scenario?
Yeah, this is really inspired by my wife, right? Yeah. She always kind of admonishes me that you got to draw some boundaries between work and life. And this goes on, for years. It has nothing to do with the latest COVID-19 situation, right? You got to draw a boundary. So when we bring work back to home, that actually heightens that sensitivity, right? When you are in the house and when you have your communication channel open to work, how do you draw boundary? And it's exactly the same when it comes to your work environment and play environment, right? You draw boundaries in terms of your time, in terms of how you allocate your work during the day. In terms of your networking resources, you also need to have certain boundaries, right? Your kids, your friends play on the computer, on the Nintendo or PlayStation modules versus someone watching TV versus someone who is working, having video conference calls, downloading a huge file, or don't forget that there are people who conduct online research, right? Lab work. That's a huge amount of data going back and forth, compute going back and forth. Now, we need to draw the boundary between work and home life, even in the networking environment, because of network bandwidth requirements, as well as we probably should touch upon it a little bit later. That is security, right? You've got to draw a very, very clear boundary between work and home life when it comes to security. And that is paramount in the future, right? When we transform our workforce from office only to office/home hybrid model, security is going to be paramount. Without security, this new form of working will just not work.
And I'm glad you mentioned the topic of cybersecurity there, because we are seeing cyber attacks and data breaches on an almost daily basis now. And then you add into the implications of things like GDPR into the mix. There is so much scope here. So do you think we need to have more conversations about how we secure working from home? And if we do, which I presume we do, where do we begin?
Absolutely. That's a great point. Now, let me just step back just a little bit, right? Think about how you work in the office environment. When you come into the office, you are really protected by a 10-inch, 12-inch firewall, thick, concrete, right? Impenetrable. But when you move to the home, you got nothing. The home is the easiest, the latest, and the easiest port of entry for hackers, because that's the weakest link. If you integrate your workforce from home to the office, that is opening up a lot of ports to potential hackers. And that is a big challenge. And I think I'm actually glad that it's becoming more and more a topic of conversation as well as work among IT professionals to address that, from telecommunication companies to networking companies like us, to employers, to the IT people in the business. Everybody is thinking how to close that gap, right? How to fortify that weakest link.
Assuming that we can get that security piece right, I'm conscious, just going back a little bit, we're talking about managing bandwidth, because I would say for the average home, we've all been working from home, but the average home has also got people streaming Spotify, Netflix, playing games, and so much more with that bandwidth. At that same time that we're trying to have those important Zoom calls that we're all familiar with now. Do you think there needs to be an education piece around that and how we share that bandwidth better and separating a little bit of your network just for your work purpose?
Yeah, so it is a big topic, and we're starting to take baby steps to address that, right? So the very first thing that I would say is that, going back to my earlier theme, right, work-life boundaries. The very first thing that you should do is to separate your Wi-Fi network between home use versus office use. At the very, very least, have separate SSIDs. That's starting to get a little technical, and I think we're going to get a lot more technical as our conversation goes on. At the very least, people should have separate SSIDs. That way, number one, you do not compete for Wi-Fi bandwidth, right? That's important. You do not compete Wi-Fi bandwidth between playing computer games versus work. Second is that by having separate SSIDs, that's the least you can do to secure your work data, right? Your work communication. That's the least you can do. Have separate SSIDs, have a passphrase that only you and your, potentially, depending on how your company is organized, only you and your employer know, right? That's the very first thing that you should do and need to do.
Absolutely. And especially when we're talking about the future of the home office. And I think that is such a key component of that future home office, and something that we don't do well enough at the moment. I know I don't, and it's something that I need to improve on. And I suspect many people listening too. But assuming we can collectively manage our bandwidth better in that home office and secure it too, we should then start exploring how we can empower employees and businesses to boost productivity and communication and all that exciting stuff. But I've got to ask, Doug, what is it that excites you about those opportunities ahead?
Well, first of all, I think I'm lucky enough to work in a IT industry, in a technology field, that there are just so many technologies that are available to us, right? It's like getting into a candy store. The challenge is how to make all these technologies work together to fundamentally improve work productivity, improve communication efficiency, and again, like I said, make employees happier. I think I do put some value in employee happiness, and that's part of the challenge that people in the Wi-Fi industry is facing and constantly trying to resolve, right? How to make Wi-Fi connection more stable, more robust, faster, secure, and easier to install, right? So these are the opportunities and challenges that we face. And when it comes to technology, kid you not, we have just so much technology available to us, right? I mean, I can start from, I live in the technology world, so I think of everything in 7 layers, right? Like the networking 7 layers. So if I start from the bottom layer, right, the physical layer, I mean, Wi-Fi as a radio technology fundamentally has not changed in the past, 100 years. It's all about pumping, changing electric field, therefore pumping a radio wave out of a metal rod. That has not changed in the past 100 years. What has changed is the sheer amount of data that piece of metal emits within a set period of time. Within 1 second, how many data bits you're able to emit out of that very stupid, simple metal rod, right? That's the technology transformation. I mean, we have done it by, changing amplitude, changing frequency, and even changing phase, finding a channel within a channel, subcarriers. I mean, the amount of transformation, evolution in the Wi-Fi technology is just mind-boggling. That's just on the device level. And then if you look at the system level, what we have seen in the past couple of years is, and this is really happening throughout, it's not only available to the big guys like the big banks, the big airports. The technologies are starting to permeate throughout. And what are those technologies? When you think back, when you first got your very first Wi-Fi device, that's just a single device you place in the house, right? And now you're starting to have, 2 or 3 to cover a bigger area. In a business environment, again, 20 years ago, you probably just have one Wi-Fi. And now we have, Wi-Fi access points that blankets the entire workspace. And here's the magic, right? The magic is that when you hold your cell phone in your hand, you walk from one end of the building to the next without dropping a single millisecond of your communication. I mean, that's magic, right? So device to device at a system level, the improvement that we have seen in the Wi-Fi industry is also by leaps and bounds. We're enabling devices to go between one spot to the other seamlessly. And then you have more and more handheld devices in the workplace as well as in the home. Now look at the home. On the average, every person carries about 3 wireless devices. So if you have a household of 3 or 4, you're talking about 12, 16, maybe even 20 if you count the TVs and the microwaves. You have, and then the IoTs, you have so many devices on the network. So the efficiency of the Wi-Fi network, how do many devices and then multiple access points efficiently use the limited radio resources, that is also a magic. That is a technology that we have seen advancement, improvement, nonstop in the past couple of years. And we're still seeing it. That transformation, that improvement is nonstop. And NETGEAR is very much at the forefront of it. So that's at the system level. Let's even look one level higher. Let's look at a global level, what kind of improvements we have seen in networking, in Wi-Fi in particular. That is what I consider as at a global level cloud management capability, right? What that means is that you have the ability to manage, to maintain, to monitor your Wi-Fi devices, Wi-Fi resources from anywhere. You're in the home, you're in the office, you're walking, you're traveling. I mean, COVID-19 is pretty much lock us down, right? But we are a adventurous people. We are a curious race. We do want to travel. We do not want to be, kind of bogged down at one place. So so that freedom, the ability to stay in touch with your network asset and resources at any place, at any time, is once again a critical, indispensable element in this new work environment, right? The flexibility of work hour, the flexibility of workplace, the flexibility of work methods, all require that the capability of global cloud-based management. And NETGEAR, our prime customer, target customer, are the small and medium-sized business, and even those businesses increasingly require that capability, and it is just accelerated by this latest health crisis in 2020.
And you mentioned that your customers there, Doug, are small to medium-sized businesses, but I wonder if you could expand a little bit on that and exactly who your customers are. And by that, I don't mean so much names, but the kind of professions and multiple industries that they're located in. And I'm also curious, What kind of conversations are you hearing from those customers at the moment?
Very interesting. So what does SMB stand for, right? Small and medium-sized business. We have seen all kinds of definitions. So my personal definition is that for a small business, that is a company does not have a full-time IT manager. That's my definition of a small business. A medium-sized business would probably have one guy who does the IT work, but primarily outsource the IT work to a consultant, to a service provider, to a reseller. And I also would like to bring up another group of customers. Those are micro business. Micro business really is just a one-man shop, no more than 3 people. These are people who, for example, are freelance writers, self-employed, work from home. That's a big group of people. Now, I don't know about the United Kingdom. I think America, there's a very large group population that is self-employed, work from home. So that's what I call a micro business. A small business could be a restaurant, or could be a restaurant chain, right? 6, 7 restaurants. Could be a law firm, could be a financial service professional company, could be a small school. These are our target customers, and who every day require, let's just say, good networking, solid networking.
And are there any trends in the kind of conversations that you're having with those customers? Is everybody looking for the solutions to the same kind of problems? Is it that bandwidth thing and in the future of the office, or is it something else?
Now, let's go back to the most recent memory. That's probably the easiest to dig up, right? So the latest conversation is that, how do I work from home?
Yeah.
I have been working in the office. I have ready access to all the files on all the computers. And now I'm removed from the office. I don't want to drive to the office parking lot and sit outside because I'm not allowed to enter the building. I don't want to sit outside and use Wi-Fi to log in and then do work. I want to stay home. How do I do that? That's a conversation that is happening every single day. How to enable this new paradigm, right? So that's the most recent. If I go back to memory a little bit, it has always been, increasing bandwidth, increasing security, how to make my network robust, do not drop, do not go blind. These are the constant conversations that's been happening.
And if we go beyond that, are there any trends around innovation and building that home of the office of the future that particularly excites you or that you're monitoring at the moment?
Several things. First of all, my job is the business side of NETGEAR, right? So what I focus on every day is on business use cases, and that line certainly has blurred a little bit because of the work from home. So I really pay a lot of attention on the home environment. I think by and large we have understood what a work environment looks like, but in the home it's a whole new world, right? We're gonna be facing a lot of IoTs, right? How do IoTs work with the home network? And again, that's quite the kind of my premise on why we need to have a work-life boundary when it comes to home networking. Because you have all the IoTs, once again, they hog up bandwidth. Once again, they are the weakest link in terms of security. So how to deal with, not just to deal with, how to accommodate, how to work with this surge of IoT devices around the house. I think that's going to be very exciting. And then certainly it's the communication aspect, right? 5G is definitely coming. That's going to improve both flexibility and throughput performance into the home. How does business take advantage of that? So that's on the internet side, right? 5G. On the local area network side, there's the Wi-Fi 6 coming. You might have heard of that, right? Wi-Fi 6 is a next generation Wi-Fi technology after previous generations. We know about 11A, B, G, and AC, right? Those were the dominant Wi-Fi technologies in the past, 10, 15 years. We have Wi-Fi 6 now. How do business take advantage of Wi-Fi 6, both at work and in the home, right? Wi-Fi 6 gives you a lot of new technologies, means to achieve your goals. For example, better throughput, handling more devices, larger coverage area, shorter latency, and better security. All these are great, right? Great ingredients in a business network. So I think these are the exciting areas, and these are the things that we will be taking full advantage of. Once again, it's not just about technology, right? We do have on our hands lots and lots of exciting technologies. It's all about how to put all these things together and make it into a product and a service and a solution that fundamentally improves the quality of work and the efficiency of communication. And once again, I will say it again, the happiness of the of employees.
And you're so right in what you say there when you said it's not all about technology. And just to bring that point to life, there's a lot of people that are going to be working from home in that home office while also homeschooling. And in particular, maths is an incredibly troubling topic because most kids will say, I don't need it because I've got Google. I can just Google anything. I've got a calculator on my phone. And parents, let's be honest, have mostly forgot what they learned at school long ago and searching for somewhat of inspiration to try and make maths cool. Now, I did read a great quote from you recently where you said that Wi-Fi is just math. But I wondered, could you expand on that story for me?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Neil. I do appreciate that. I mean, I do not take credit for that quote, okay? Yeah. I was inspired by my daughter's teacher. And he said that he struggles every day answering students' question on, why calculus, why math? He only had one very relevant answer when it comes to probability. And that's right? Probability is something that can easily understand and the relevancy between mathematical probability as a discipline in mathematics versus real life. But when it comes to calculus, it's really hard to understand, right? What's the, what's the relationship? How is it relevant? So coming to my own, my little profession, I mean, when you think about Wi-Fi, it's all about math. And just like I said, the fundamental of a radio wave has not changed since Maxwell, right? You're a countryman. It has not changed. But what has changed is that within a finite amount of time, the amount of data that you can transmit and as well as receive have just, multiply, 100-folds, thousands-folds, millions-folds in the past 20 years. And it's all about math. It's all because of mathematics that is giving it the tools, the foundation to make that possible. So if you have any, listeners who are students or listeners who have kids in school, do encourage them. Math is really relevant, and it's got everything to do with everyday life. And then comes to back to your original question, homeschooling, education. I forgot to mention that earlier. It is so important to improve Wi-Fi as a technology, as a solution in the home to benefit education from home. And I'll tell you why. We're now learning from home. What that means is that classroom will be distributed to multiple locations. How do you have that seamless conversation between teacher and student and between fellow students as if they were in the same classroom face to face? That's a challenge, right? If you have that echo, if you have that noise, if you have that lag, that conversation is just not going to be conducive to learning, to discussion. So immediately you see the need for high quality networking, high quality Wi-Fi in the home. That's just one aspect. The second aspect is that now I hope I was encouraging your listeners. Now I'm trying to discourage your students now. I hope that nobody is trying to hack into their school system to change their grades. I mean, kids are so resourceful, let's just say. They can do just about anything that adults can imagine. So to make sure that teachers have a secure connection to the school's network, I mean, that's critical, right? If you do not have a credible system for the teachers to grade their students' work, to craft their exams, quizzes, I mean, that just won't work. So I emphasize two things. One is the quality of communication. That's about bandwidth. That's about latency handling, quality of service handling. And the other aspect is really about the security, right? End-to-end security from the desk in your home back to the school network on premise, right? On the school premise. So these are two very important factors in the future, in this new way of education.
Couldn't agree more. And before I do let you go today, something I would love to do also is to ask you to gaze into your virtual crystal ball for a moment and help people listening understand where we're heading and explore the art of the possible. So with that in mind, how do you see the home office of the future looking in 1 year from now, 5 years, and indeed beyond?
Wow, that's a difficult question. So I'm going to fall back on something that I feel comfortable with, and then I'll stretch my imagination a little bit, okay? What I feel comfortable with are the following. I know that 5G is going to be here. I know that Wi-Fi is going to continue to evolve to, of course, to become better, right? Better means faster, more reliable, and more secure, right? I think these two are the kind of cornerstones in the new work from home environment. And then if I stretch my imagination a little bit, that is the abundance of and the varieties of compute devices in your home. And that includes all the IoTs that are possibly coming into your house, right? Your refrigerator, your microwave, your, all kinds of things, your door locks, your window blinds, your security cameras, all kinds of things that will be in the home. Now, if we look into the future, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, my vision is a big word, but at least my imagination is that it will be seamless, it will be effortless, and it will only improve the quality of life and work without being a drag, without having that face, right? That dreadful face of saying, oh, my Wi-Fi is down. Hey, Dad, my internet is down. My Wi-Fi is down. Eliminating all those roadblocks, all those hindrances to an optimal work-life environment. I think at least that's the vision and the goal of my little industry for the next 5, maybe even 10 years.
And what a beautiful moment to end on. I think we're going to leave everyone listening wanting more and wanting to find out more about the work you're doing at NETGEAR and also building that home office of the future. So for everyone listening, before I let you go, can you just remind them of where they can find you online and the best way of keeping up to date with the latest news there, and also contacting your team if they've got any additional questions?
Yes, absolutely. NETGEAR.com. That's the best place to go. That's the first portal. And then there are 2 other places that I would recommend. One is, the NETGEAR communities. We have multiple. And if you get into our community, it's organized by different use cases, different application, different products. There's a wealth of knowledge and lively conversation going on the community. That's one place. The other thing is go to YouTube. We have a NETGEAR channel, and I think you can every now and then find me there and giving a little bit of a talk here and there, tutorial. And many of my colleagues post their thoughts and demonstrate the latest products and the latest gizmo. It's a wonderful place to go see NETGEAR. So at least 3 places. Go to our corporate portal. That's netgear.com. You will find everything there. Go reach out to NETGEAR community, second place. The third place is go to YouTube. And most of the videos should be fun to watch.
Fantastic. Well, I've loved chatting with you today, Doug. Your passion really comes across for everything that you're doing here. And I think it's been a great relief and break from all those buzzwords that typically come with any tech podcast, and just providing real world scenarios and where we're heading, especially because a lot of people have got home offices and homeschooling and working from home at the moment. But more than anything, just thank you for sharing your insights and vision around building that home office of the future. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Neil.
Meeting rooms, household and online articles are all busy discussing what the future of work will look like and pitting that against what working in the office looks like. But now, more than ever, working from home and at scale and video conferencing has become the norm. And I think that the home office of the future is a topic that needs more attention. And I love the phrase that Doug used in the podcast there, work, bandwidth, life boundary. So how many of you listening have segmented a little of your home Wi-Fi just for work purposes to stop all those smart devices, movie and game streaming services in your home from interfering with those important video conferencing calls and all the other aspects of the Wi-Fi that you need to work properly? So what does the home office look like and how do we get there? I think we are all, and I do include myself in this, need to collectively think about how we can better manage the bandwidth on our Wi-Fi and also improve the security in our home offices too. And I think that only when we achieve that can we begin to explore the real exciting stuff, such as empowering employees and businesses to boost productivity, communication, and so much more. And remember, if you enjoyed the show, please leave a rating and review and join me again in 2 weeks, where we'll continue to investigate how NETGEAR and its partners are working to solve real-world networking challenges of today and the future. So a big thank you from me for investing your time in listening to the podcast today, and I hope you'll join me again on Switched On Thinking next time.
Thank you for listening to the Switched On Thinking podcast, brought to you by NETGEAR, delivering innovative networking solutions you can count on, so you can spend more time on what matters most, growing your business.